Welcome everyone to another Prophecy Wire. We have some very interesting things to talk to you about today. I'm your host, Mackenzie Drebbett, and we have this very interesting things that are taking place right now, which is this 10 Commandments being put into the schools in Louisiana. So we have this real conservative push that's taking place right now. And we're going to talk about what that means for you and me, what that means for America as a country. And we're going to be going over these things. Now, if we can pull up the slides here, we're going to share with you some references here. And we'll just wait for the slides to show up here. Okay. So we have this conservative push that is taking place, and we're going to go through some of the implications of this. Now, before we do, I want to just remind you guys that this is live. So please put your questions in the chats below, and we're going to answer your questions on the topics that we're talking about today. So make sure you don't forget to put your questions in the chat below. So here's some questions we got last time that we couldn't answer because we ran out of time. This is not every question, but these are some of the questions we're going to be going over today. So at the end of our discussion, we're going to go to these questions and whatever other questions you guys have. So we have this situation right now in Louisiana where they have the 10 Commandments. This was a bill that has just been passed, just been signed. So let's read here a little bit about this. Louisiana has become the first state to require that the 10 Commandments be displayed in every public school classroom. The latest move from a GOP-dominated legislature pushing a conservative agenda under a new governor. The legislation that Republican Governor Jeff Landry signed into law on Wednesday requires a poster-sized display of the 10 Commandments in large, easily readable font in all public classrooms from kindergarten to state-funded universities. If you want to respect the rule of law, you've got to start from the original lawgiver, which was Moses. This is what Landry said, and you can see him talking all about this, that he thinks that we need to go back to the original lawgiver, which was Moses, who took this law directly from God. Now, what does this all mean? This is a very interesting thing because this is not just in Christian schools, right? This is in public schools where there is different religious beliefs. People who have this faith or the other faith, or maybe they're atheist and they don't want to hear about these things. And now they don't have that option. They don't have this freedom of religion, which is what America was supposed to be founded on. That's why the Puritans and the Pilgrims left Europe to come to America, because they wanted religious freedom, because they were being forced into a religious system that they did not agree with. So now we have this very similar thing that is taking place where we have the 10 Commandments. And don't get me wrong, I'm a Christian. Obviously, I would love if everybody became Christian. I think the world would be a better place. I think that Jesus could have come back already. But that has nothing to do with force. God's government isn't about force. God's government is about freedom. And that's what we're trying to promote, is freedom. If they made laws that I liked, I wouldn't be okay with it if they made religious belief laws that I agree with, because I don't agree with making that a law. This needs to be freedom of choice. We have freedom of speech, freedom of religion. So in the Progressive magazine, Louisiana's Ten Commandments law is an assault on history. That's quite the statement. Republicans are using a debunked James Madison quote to defend a bill that would eviscerate church-state separation. And in a sense, I do agree with them here that it is eroding that separation of church and state, which is exactly what they're trying to do and what we know is going to happen based on what we've been talking about in Revelation chapter 13. Because in Revelation chapter 13, starting at verse 11, and I'm just going to read it here, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Now, this beast, it says, also exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast. So this two-horned beast that looks like a lamb, this is representing America. And it's rising up, and it has these two lamb-like principles, republicanism and Protestantism, freedom of religion, and it looks very lamb-like. But it will speak as a dragon. And this is the problem, because it's going to exercise all the power of the first beast and force people to worship this first beast. So when we look at the first beast and its characteristics, it blasphemes God, and it thinks to change times and laws that God created. So it's making these religious laws against its people, against their will, and America is told to do the same thing. It's going to look good. It's going to look lamb-like. It's going to look like it supports God and Christ and Jesus, but it speaks like a dragon. Let's continue back to the reference here in the Progressive magazine. It says, one need not speculate much about the legislation's ulterior motives. Its primary author, Republican Representative Dodie Hardin, was candid in admitting that its goal is to promote certain beliefs over others. And this is what I have a problem with. Because when you do something visible like this, when you do something in a public school, you are showing one belief structure over another. When these people are putting their kids there to go to school to try and learn things, but not try and learn your religious belief. So that's what I have a problem with here. And it continues, when asked about teachers who may not recognize the divinity of the Ten Commandments, she said she is not concerned with an atheist or a Muslim, but only with our children looking and seeing what God's law is. So there's obviously an agenda here. There is something that they're trying to promote, and this is a religious law. Whether we like it or not, this is a religious law, and this is coming back to America right now. This is exactly what Amazing Discoveries has been talking about for a long time, that America is going to bring religious laws back, even though it's supposed to be this, and I'll use the title of the magazine, progressive, open, free nation. It's going to start speaking like a dragon. And this dragon here represents the old kingdom of Rome that was when Jesus was alive. And they had oppression. And they were doing, this was during the Dark Ages. This is when there was tons of persecution on God's people. And it's going to start doing this through religious laws. And we're seeing this here. Now, this isn't, doesn't seem so dangerous right now. And it almost seems great for those people who are trying to promote Christ and promote the keeping of the Ten Commandments, because I believe we should keep the Ten Commandments. I believe they haven't been nailed to the cross. And I'm sure if someone comes and steals your car, you believe that the Ten Commandments are not nailed to the cross either, and that they are still in effect. So this is quite something. This is prophecy being revealed right before our eyes. Again, I want to remind you guys to put your questions in the chat below so that we can go through them. And I'll be having the guys sending me all of your questions so that we can make sure that we answer them. So this is nothing new, what we're seeing today in history. It's the same thing. History repeats itself. So I have this reference from 1887. This is a year before what was called the Blair's Bill. And the Blair's Bill was actually a religious enforcement bill in 1888. We can go into that in more detail later. But in this book called The Marvel of Nations, Our Country, Its Past, Present, and Future, and What the Scripture Says of It, by Uriah Smith, has this to say. And as I'm reading this, you're just going to be hearing exactly what's happening right now and what you're seeing on the news with the left and with the right, and them just butting heads. And we're going to see a synthesis after all this is done. So here is what it says. In a later issue, dated March 1, 1883, in reply to the question from a correspondent, will you please tell me how this has nothing to do with religion? The Independent says, we can only repeat that it is a great disadvantage to be in the minority. People there may be right, but they must suffer and submit. Everyone from the days of the apostles down who has suffered from religious oppression could testify in regard to the disadvantage of being in the minority. But is this government, which professes to guarantee to the weakest and humblest citizen his just rights, now to take the position that such rights cannot be secured unless he is with the majority? So this is exactly what we're seeing. It doesn't matter if you're the minority, you have to be with the majority. And this is the problem, because America is based on republicanism, which is freedom of the individual, the rights of the individual human being. But now, and just like we've seen here, it went in, it came back, but now we're seeing this coming again. So let's continue with this reference. Again, the Independent says, all the state wants is that the citizen shall have 1 day in 7 for rest, not for religion. But can anyone tell why the large majority cannot rest? Just as well on the first day, even if the small minority who keep the 7th day go about their legitimate and honorable occupation, if it is rest merely that is wanted. Does my work hinder my neighbor from resting? But no, if you are seen at work, you shall be arrested. Therefore, it is not simply the privilege of rest for those who desire it, but a compulsory rest, whether you wish it or not, because others desire that you shall rest as well as themselves. Again, we quote, if they insist on so working as to interfere with the rest day of the majority, they must either move or be moved away. We are sorry, but there is no help for it. And everyone, again, history repeats itself. If we've seen this happening already in America, this was in 1887. Do you think we're not going to see this again? Especially when we have this huge culmination of these two forces, and it's getting very sensitive. It's getting very precarious. So these are signs, and we should be taking, we need to look at the past and we need to learn from history. This history isn't taught because why? They don't want you to know this part of history because they don't want you to see what they're trying to do. It continues here. We know of no observers of the 7th day who have the least intention of interfering or desire to interfere with others in their observance of the first day. They ask for no right to do anything of this kind. They would religiously refrain from disturbing either the private rest or the public devotion of any on that day. But we apprehend that the very fact that we do not keep that day, nor acknowledge its claims, we be construed to amount to a sufficient interference and disturbance to call for repressive measures. Let them move or be moved. The opposition to the religious amendment manifested in many parts of the country, especially by the liberal or infidel element, is thought by many to be an insuperable barrier in the way of its success. Now, I want you to take note to this next section. This sounds just like what's happening right now. But if we mistake not, this is the very stimulus which will excite its friends to such exertions that it will ultimately be secured. So look at this here. Don't be mistaken, he's saying. This is the very stimulus that's needed to push the conservative religious agenda. We need that left pushing against because it makes you feel you have to push that much harder against it. For the opposition assumes such an aggressive attitude that no neutral ground is left. An irrepressible conflict is precipitated. It must be victory or defeat of the most decisive kind with either party. The government must become nominally wholly Christian or in reality wholly secular. Now, I want to hear what you guys have to say about that, because this, to me, feels exactly like what is happening right now. We have the right going hard on their side. We have the left pushing up against, and we just see this civil unrest, this real hard opposition, this polarization. Do you guys think that this could precipitate some of these things happening? I want you guys to put in the chat what your thoughts are here. Because to me, what happened in 1887 here feels very much like the race that's happening right now in America's government. And after this stream ends, after we're done here, I think it's the first presidential debate. So that's happening right after we're done here. You know, and as well, I want to hear what you guys have to think. Do you think that the Republicans are going to win or the Democrats? I want you to put your thoughts down below. Who do you think is going to win in this? In this debate, let's see in this debate, and let's see in the race. Because I'm really curious what each of you guys think. Do you think that the Democrats are going to win or the Republicans? And do you see this thing that I'm seeing here with these events, that they're going to happen and they're happening right now, repeating, history is repeating? I want to see what you guys have to say about that. If I could get any of the responses put for me here. Okay. Great. So while you guys are going through answering that, so again, what do you guys think is going to happen with this debate and with the election? Do you think it's going to be the Democrats or do you think it's going to be the Republicans? And also, do you see this thing repeating itself again? And while you guys are writing in your comments, we're actually going to have a short break. We have an amazing event that's happening this fall, coming up very soon, and it is our camp meeting. So we'll be back shortly.
Over 180 years ago, some of the most significant messages ever given to humanity were proclaimed, igniting widespread interest in spiritual revival. But have we forgotten these messages? Do we know our past and the truths connected to it? It has been said, we have nothing to fear for the future, except as we forget the past. Join us this fall at our upcoming Dugan Lake Camp meeting as we seek to revive these important messages and explore what lies ahead.
So what is the thing that this angel has? And this is the first angel out of 3 angels' messages.
This is the threefold union.
Experience God's end-time truth like never before. Explore the 3 angels' messages of Revelation 14, announcing the investigative judgment, fall of spiritual Babylon, and warnings against receiving the mark of the beast. Additionally, engage in medical missionary training featuring practical workshops on cooking, natural remedies, and end-time gardening. Join us to hear AD speakers Mackenzie Drebbett and Matthew Shawnshea as they present compelling lectures on Bible prophecy and its relevance to current events. Health professional and medical missionary Ron Meinhardt will share his extensive knowledge on natural healing methods that any family can adopt. Additionally, learn healthy bread-making techniques along with the art of scripture singing. The world is nearing its end, but there is still much work to be done in proclaiming the final message. The prophet of God declared, "All the messages given from 1840 to 1844 are to be made forcible now, for there are many people who have lost their bearings." Join us for this upcoming camp meeting as we explore the history of Adventism in connection with the 3 angels' messages that are to reach the entire world in this generation. To register and find out more, visit campmeeting.amazingdiscoveries.org. We hope to see you there.
Okay, we're back. Thank you everyone for all your responses. We have some input here. We have Zelpha McDonald saying, "I believe Satan is trying to start some trouble." And I believe the same thing. I believe Satan is trying to start some trouble because this is not a war between flesh and blood. This is between principalities and powers and things that we can't even fathom. And it's outside of our realm. So with that, we have Selma Crump. They are 2 birds of the same feather. I can't see anyone being a winner. This is Anthony Turner. Unfortunately, I can't see anyone being a winner unless Christ returns. Then Christians win. I totally agree with you. Then we have PF 1950. If Trump thinks before he talks, I think he will do well. So I agree that these are 2 birds of the same feather, that we need to make sure that our eyes are focused on the events that are coming and preparing and warning people for the events coming. The candidates don't really matter. The only way that they matter is where we see them pushing really strongly. So we can see a push to the left, a push to the right. Now, we know that everything happens in the time that God wants it to happen. We have Carly Whitehead. Honestly, I believe that it will happen the way God wants it to happen. His prophecy will be fulfilled. Exactly what I was saying. That's why it's written here, because it is said beforehand what is going to happen, so we don't have to guess. We don't have to wonder, because it's written here for us. Zelpha McDonald, I believe the God is going to allow the one who will fulfill prophecy to win. Well, that's a very good statement. Selma Crump. I am reminded of Project 2025. Well, I'm very much reminded of Project 2025 as well. Because when we go back to, our slides here, I'm going to go back to the bill. Now, this 10 commandments that they're that they're putting into Louisiana public schools, this is really going to push forward this Project 2025. And remember, this, they said, is to be enforced in early 2025. So that is when this is actually going to be placed into effect. And so we need to keep our eye out there for these things, because this project that is going to take place is really critical that we understand what's going on. So I'm going to jump down here actually. I want to switch gears a little bit for a minute, and I want you guys again to make sure that you're putting your questions in the comment your questions in the comments, and we're going to get to them as soon as we can. Now, I'm going to switch gears here to something that was brought up last time, and that is when I read Revelation 13, verse 16 and 17. So we're going to read this again. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. So we have this mark that's going to be placed on these people. And then I went and we talked about this group called the 144,000. And they have the seal of God on them. And then we went to Ezekiel 20:20. And I'm going to read it quickly again. Ezekiel 20:20. So it says here, and hallow my Sabbaths, and they shall be a sign between me and you, that ye may know that I am the Lord your God. And some people didn't like that I made the connection between that sign, the seal, and the mark, that I almost used them as synonyms. Now, did I have a right to do this? So we need to ask the Bible if I had a right to do this. So remember, we have the New Testament that is written in Greek and the Old Testament that is written in Hebrew. And we have these different words sometimes used to describe the same thing. Now, again, we have this mark in Revelation chapter 13 that is going to be put on people that worship the beast and that go along with this image of the beast. So let's see here, Ezekiel 20:20. And hallow my Sabbaths, and they shall be a sign. And this is the Hebrew word 266 in your Strong's Concordance. So if you look this up, this is number H226. Did I say 266? 226, H226. Now, what does this word mean? It means a sign, a signal, and a distinguishing mark. So it's the same thing. It is used as the same word in the same context that this word mark is used in Revelation chapter 13. They are a banner. They are a token, an ensign, a standard, a proof, a mark, a sign. So this is how you know who's in what side of the standard. So we have those who are going to receive the mark of the beast and those who are going to receive the mark of God. And that is the distinguishing factor. We have this word that is sign and mark. Now let's see where this word is used. It's used in Exodus 31 verse 13. Speak thou also unto the children of Israel, saying, Verily my Sabbaths ye shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that ye may know that I am the Lord that doth sanctify you. So this mark or this sign that God is giving is also in Deuteronomy 6, verse 6 to 8. And thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thine hand, and they shall be as frontlets between thine eyes. Now again, the Catholic record said that Sunday is our mark of authority. So what does this have to do with the things that we're talking about here? So we have this church saying that this is our mark. Now again, when we go back to Revelation 13, this has to be a religious law, right? We have this beast that is blaspheming, changing times and laws of God, right? Blasphemy is something against God and against God's law and against what God does. And it's changing the times and laws. The only law that has a time is the fourth law, which is the Sabbath law. So obviously, they are doing something different. They're making a different day. They're changing the times and laws, but it's still about worship. It's still about God. It's still lamb-like. It looks Christian, but it is against God because they're changing his law and in place of his law, putting man's rendition of his law. So we have this situation here, and let me just see here. I think what I'm gonna do, and I always carry this in my Bible, and we're gonna get to some of these chats here. I keep this, and this is the Convert's Catechism of Catholic Doctrine. So this just is interesting. If we go to page 50 in this book, it shows us something here. And I know probably, I don't know if on the side camera, if we can switch to this one, if they can see this. It's probably not going to be in focus very well. But basically what's shown here is the third commandment. Now wait, I thought in Exodus 20, the fourth commandment was about the Sabbath, but no, not here. It's the third commandment. And it says, the third commandment is, remember that thou keep holy the Sabbath day, which is the Sabbath day. This is the question, because how the catechism is structured is question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. So we have the first question, what is the third commandment? Then it's remember the Sabbath day. Question, which is the Sabbath day? Answer, Saturday is the Sabbath day. Question, why do we observe Sunday instead of Saturday? Answer, we observe Sunday instead of Saturday because the Catholic Church transferred the solemnity from Saturday to Sunday. Okay, everyone, we got interrupted on the live stream here, so we apologize for that. We will be back shortly. We had a little bit of an issue with one of the live stream computers, so I just jumped on here to let you know that we're still here, and we're going to wrap this thing up we've been going about, we still have a bit to cover. We have some more questions to answer because we had a bunch of questions coming. So just be patient. In another 30 seconds to a minute, we should be back up and running. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Okay. I think we are back on the stream. Sorry about that. Thank you for your patience. Now, as a friend told me one time, evil's afoot. This is, I think the devil's playing with us here. So we're going to continue. So if everybody can hear me, we're going to go through some of these questions. But we ended with the quotes from the Converts Catholic Catechism. And this is just nice to have so you can show people that this really is their teachings and that we're not making this stuff up. This is real stuff that is there right now. Okay, back to Revelation chapter 13. Now, we have some comments and questions that came in. Zelfa McDonald says, is the 144,000 a literal or symbolic number? So this was asked last time, and I said I would answer this. So we're going to get back to this. Pilgrim's Progress, what is the image of the beast? That's a great question, and that's what we're talking about right now. So just in brief, what is the image of the beast? Because we can do a deep dive into exactly what that means, and we'll probably do a full episode on this. But just really briefly, we need to ask, what is the image of the beast, okay? So that question there, we just need to start asking ourselves more questions. And I don't want to just give you guys cookie cutter answers. I don't want to just, throw some Bible verses at you and say, here you go. Great, thanks for coming. I want to help you guys to learn how to study, because this is really what is valuable, to put the Bible back into people's hands, because it almost seems as locked today as when the Dark Ages had it changed inside the cathedral. But it shouldn't be. It should be open, and it is open. So again, I'm going to reference these, and you can call our office and get a free bookmark of each of these. Yes, we do sell sharing packs where there's a lot of them. and that helps us out every time you buy something. Now, we don't make much on them, so we are donation-based, so if you can click the donate QR code, that is fantastic. We really appreciate that. But we have these two bookmarks here. We have the William Miller Rules, and these are really just Bible rules. It says William Miller because William Miller is the one who compiled it. But these are Bible principles, and I want you guys to get familiar with these because they're going to really explode your study. Then we have Bible symbols bookmark, okay? So we have these two resources that you can get for free. Just call our office. The number is 1-866-572-9457. 866-572-9457, and maybe we can get a lower third up there with the phone number so that they can do that. So again, just ask for these. Now, when we look at this question, what is the image of the beast? We have to ask a couple of things. First, what is the beast? Okay? Because this is an image of the beast. So what is the beast? And what are the characteristics of the beast? So we have a couple characteristics here. One, they speak blasphemy, right? That's in verse 1, Revelation 13, verse 1. They have the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were like the feet of a bear. This is verse 2. And then it says, and his mouth was as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power. So this dragon power is, or entity gave this beast its power. Now, we go down to verse 3. And I saw one of its heads as were wounded to death, and they worshipped the dragon which gave power unto the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? So it's going to have similar characteristics in how it operates to this first beast, because an image is a likeness, right? It's a likeness to this first power. So the image of the beast, let's read it in context. And I beheld another beast. This is verse 11, Revelation 13, verse 11. Hopefully I'm not going too fast for you guys. If you need to, go back, rewatch sections, or ask more questions, and I will try and clarify all of this. So Revelation 13, 11. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. So again, we already see this likeness to the first beast where he's speaking like a dragon. So it says, and he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him. So he's doing the same power moves as the first beast. And causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders. So he's going to do great wonders. And then let's go down to where it talks about this image of the beast. Verse 15, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. Actually, sorry, I skipped a verse. Verse 14, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. So this power is going to do miracles. Now, this is a question for you all. Are these miracles real miracles? Are these not real miracles? So we have these miracles being taken place in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. So they're going to make an image to the beast. And an image is a representation. So the way that the first beast operated is the way that this beast is going to operate. So when we look at that, we see that they operated through religious enforcement laws, that they made a universal Sunday law. They did this. They caused persecution. And we see here in the later verses that it's going to cause persecution, that it's going to have a no buy, no sell law. And then eventually, if that doesn't work, it's going to want to try and put these people to death. But again, Daniel 12:1. At that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered. So we have this beast that is trying to wipe out God's people, but we know that when they put in this death decree, that God's people will be spared because Michael is standing up for them. So this image of the beast, you could say it is a equivalent in ruling power. And then they take that power, they take that structure that they are turning into, speaking like a dragon, to enforce this very specific law, which is the mark of the beast law, if that makes sense. So the image of the beast and the mark of the beast is not the same thing, but they're related. They cause the other to take place. So I hope that helps. Then we have Carly Whitehead. This is when family and friends will tell on you if you don't go to church, when they tell us to. So this comment here, Carly Whitehead, this is very interesting. Now, we know in the end, Jesus even told us that mother is going to be against daughter, father against son, etc., that family will be against family. And this is exactly going to be the case, because you're either going to choose one option or you're going to choose the other. This is why we need to start preparing people now for this decision, and we need to get them informed so they can make a good decision, so that they are not deceived and they are not bought into the propaganda and the lie of what is coming, and that this is actually a benefit. No, this isn't a benefit. This is against freedom of religion. This is against the freedom of the individual. This is against God, against God's principles, even though they're claiming to be lamb-like. So then we have Scott Benzing. Will it matter who becomes president? Will Sunday laws be enacted regardless? Okay, Scott Benzing. That is a good question. Will it matter? Well, it will matter in the sense that most likely a liberal or democratic government wouldn't enforce a conservative religious law. So it could. I'm not saying it could not. But the way that I see the prophecy being fulfilled is this is coming from the right. So when I see things like Trump coming to play and Project 2025 in place, and if you guys haven't read Project 2025, you should go look at it. Go look at our Truth Matters episode about Project 2025. Maybe we can even put the link on the screen for them, guys. Take a look at that episode, because we go over a lot of the things in there, Project 2025, and this is specifically a conservative agenda. So I see that, the thing is, we expect some of the things to come from the left, this demoralization, which is almost like the French Revolution, but that will push in this other side, which is exactly what Uriah Smith was talking about. Now, can it come from both sides? Absolutely. I'm not saying it has to come from one side or the other. They definitely can be. And when it's the time, God will allow this to happen, because that is what is predicted. Okay, Carly Whitehead, how do I get a copy of that? What is that? Is that the bookmarks, maybe? Like I said, if there's anything referenced in Prophecy Wire that you guys would like to get, just call our office, call the number, and ask them, say, hey, I was watching Prophecy Wire, and he had these nice bookmarks, or he had this resource, and I would like to get it. Just tell them, and they will help you guys with that. Okay, and there you can see the Truth Matters Project 2025. So take a look at that. And we can also put Project 2025 in the description. So once we're done the live stream, we can add some of the links and things in the description for you guys to go to. Okay, let's go to next question. Zelpha McDonald, can you please explain Ezekiel chapter 9? Well, you're in luck, because I was going to go to Ezekiel 9 today regardless. So we're going to get there. Ayana Tobias, I'm sorry if I don't pronounce these names great. If you're in the Caribbean, can you get them? Okay. Yeah, we ship globally. Sorry, I read that a little bit funny. Any of these resources, plus we have a lot of them free for download as well. I like having a physical thing because I can carry it around. Doesn't matter if I have internet or where I am. I always have it. And I always keep extra in my Bible. I just keep it inside the case. And there is, when I need to share it with someone, I have some. Okay. So we have PowerPoint, AR, okay. I'd like for AD to cover and review the understanding of the seal of God. And who does the sealing? I think many believe and think that it's the same thing and intermix both. Okay. The sealing is a very good question and a very important one. And actually, maybe this is a good time to go to some of our previous questions. We showed them at the start of the presentation here. And I'm going to go back to the slides because this gets to some of these questions that were asked before. So we have from Zelpha McDonald, are the people in the SDA Church going to be sealed before Sunday law? So again, this is talking about the sealing time, which we'll have to do an entire episode, at least an entire episode on just this topic. We have Patty G advise on the human settlements in the Vancouver article. And then I would like to know if the 144,000 are literal. So to answer this simply, just so you guys can get a beginning understanding, again, my favorite thing to do and what I recommend everybody does is when they have a question, ask more questions. So if you have one question, make all the versions of that question you can. So here, what is the purpose of Sunday law, right? Because if we're asking the question, are the people in the SDA Church going to be sealed before, we need to understand what is the purpose of Sunday law itself. So that's an important one. What happens if they're not sealed before is another question I would ask. So are they going to be before? Well, what happens if they're not sealed before? Okay. Why would they be sealed first? So what could cause this? Why would that take place? And why would it be important? And then I put here, what and who and why would they need to be sealed first? So just to re-emphasize this, and this goes back to the other question, that is, what is the sealing? Who is doing the sealing? So to answer this, I'm going to go to a reference here in Letters and Manuscripts talking about this very topic. Sunday keeping is not yet the mark of the beast. So am I saying that people have the mark of the beast right now? That as they're walking on the street or as they're coming and talking to you, they have the mark of the beast? No, that's not what I'm saying. Because until the events connected in this chapter happen, the mark of the beast can't be enforced. Because it's an enforced law, okay? So this, nobody has the mark of the beast yet, and will not be until the decree goes forth, causing men to worship this idol Sabbath. The time will come when this day will be the test, but that time has not yet come. Now, eventually, this statement is not going to be accurate. It's going to be has come, because that's what's predicted. So here it is. This is the test that the people of God must have before they are sealed. Well, that is interesting. All who can prove their loyalty to God by observing his law and refusing to accept a spurious Sabbath will rank under the banner of the Lord God Jehovah and will receive the seal of the living God. Those who yield the truth of heavenly origin and accept the Sunday Sabbath will receive the mark of the beast. What need will there be of the solemn warning not to receive the mark of the beast when all the saints of God are sealed and ticketed for the New Jerusalem? O consistency, thou art a jewel. Okay, so again, I want to go back to the Bible. Before we continue, we have to sit on this quote a little bit longer, because there's a couple things in here I really want you to notice. It says, this is the test that the people of God must have before they are sealed. Well, that is very interesting. So, before they are sealed. All who prove their loyalty to God by observing his law will rank under the banner of the Lord and will receive the seal of the living God. Now, where do we see the seal of God? Well, that's in Revelation 7, like we were talking about. And it says in Revelation chapter 7, and after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth. And this 4 winds here is so interesting, and we're going to have to do a complete discussion on just this. But basically, we have this time frame, okay? There's these 4 angels holding the 4 winds back. And are these God's angels or the devil's angels? These are God's angels, okay? So they're the ones holding the winds. That the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God, and he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads. Okay, so this final thing cannot take place till the servants of God are sealed. What is this final thing? Well, it's the blowing of the 4 winds, right? Hold back the 4 winds until the servants of God are sealed. These 4 winds here, and I'm just going to make a broad brush statement here, and we'll have to go and study this together. But these 4 winds that are being held back, once these are let loose, it's letting loose the plagues. And this is the close of probation. And we'll go into detail about this, and we're gonna prove this from the Bible. But we have this close of probation that is going to take place, and that cannot happen until the servants of God are sealed in their foreheads. Okay? So now the question was, are they going to be sealed before Sunday law? Well, we just read that this is the test the people of God must have before they are sealed. Now, is the sealing taking place right now? And I believe it is. And we have a lot of reasons to believe it is. But you need to hit the final test in order to see if you passed, if you know what I'm saying. So this is the great test, and we're in the sealing process. And what is the sealing? The sealing is a settling into the truth, both intellectually and spiritually, so that you cannot be moved. You're immovable because your foundation is so strong. and you understand and you've studied and you've put this into yourself, you've assimilated it, you know it by memory. It's become muscle memory to flip to these verses. And this is what we should all be striving for, is to understand and be able to do this and share with everybody we're in contact with. So this sealing is a settling into the truth. So the sealing is happening. But the end of the sealing, which is what most people are talking about, because when they say, will these people be sealed? That's the end of the sealing. That is a process that is going to take place when they are tested. Now, those who yield the truth of heavenly origin and accept the Sunday Sabbath will receive the mark of the beast. There's a lot more quotes that I can read regarding this and regarding the seal and how this is applied. And there's stages to how this Sunday law is going to be enforced. And all throughout those stages, people are going to be falling off. People are going to be giving in because it gets harder and harder and harder, right up until you can't buy or sell unless you have the mark of the beast. And when you can't buy food, fuel, electricity, heat, water, then it becomes really serious. I'm not trying to scare anybody, because this is where we're coming to study. We're coming to be like the Bereans. We're searching the scriptures, we're fortifying ourselves, and we're going to get ready for this time. And that's the point of this prophecy wire, is to tell you what's happening, inform you, and help you to get ready. So now we're going to go to 1 Peter 4:17 on the slides. For the time is come that judgment must begin at the house of God. And if it first begin at us, what shall the end of them that obey not the gospel of God? So again, does this mean just because they have to be tested that their sealing is happening at the same time as everyone else? No, because it begins at the house of God. And the reason they get the test first is because they understand what the test is. So because of their knowledge, they are tested first. And then the others are going to be tested second. Ezekiel 9, verse 6. And this is going back to one of the questions. Slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children, and women, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark. So they were going to slay utterly young, maids, little children, women, old, except those who have the mark. Now, is this a good mark or is this a bad mark? And this goes back to the discussion again. The seal, the sign, is also a mark. You either have the mark of God or the mark of the beast. These people have the mark of God because when it comes to slay old and young, they have a mark and they don't get that judgment. And begin at my sanctuary. So again, the house of God with God's people. Then they began at the ancient men which were before the house. Ezekiel chapter 9. And I really hope, if possible, as you guys are going through this and listening, I hope you have your Bibles with me. Now, I'm going to go check the chats here because I think I am losing track. And we're going to get back to this. So we have, let's see here, Thomas Manzi. And again, I apologize if I don't pronounce everybody's name correctly. Hello, can you discuss where the Bible talks about peace, peace, and the sudden destruction? Thank you. Okay, great question. Peace, peace, and then sudden destruction. So when we're referring to this, and I will just pull this up really quickly. Okay. So let's go to 1 Thessalonians. 1 Thessalonians 5:3. And I love the live questions. I think it's great. I think it really helps everybody. It helps me a lot because it pushes me. And I think it's great for you guys because you can see live a real Bible study. We're in a real Bible study here. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to be in a real Bible study so that those of you who don't have that opportunity, we can still sit down and study. 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 3. 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 3. For when they shall say, peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. Okay, this right here, what we're talking about, is talking about this same time of trouble that shall never be, that was in Daniel 12, verse 1. So let's start at verse 1, 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 1. But of the times and the seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you, for yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. For when they shall say peace and safety. Let's skip down to verse 4. But ye, brethren, are not in darkness. Okay, so is Jesus coming as a thief? Only to those who are unready. Only to those who are unstudied. Only to those who haven't sacrificed all. Only to those who haven't sounded the warning trumpet. Because it says, but ye, brethren, are, if we're brethren, we should not be taken unaware. It says, are not in darkness, that the day should overtake you as a thief. So for us, for those who are studying, those who are asking these questions, it should not come to us as a thief. But for them, it will. Ye are all the children of light and the children of the day. We are not of the night, nor of darkness. Therefore let us not sleep as do others, but let us watch and be sober. We could go through a lot of things in this chapter. Read this chapter for yourselves. Again, it says, don't sleep. This reminds me of Matthew chapter 25. Matthew chapter 25, which is the virgins. The parable of the 10 virgins, where you have 5 wise and 5 foolish. And they're sleeping, and they need to be woken up. This is Laodicea. This is the time frame that we're in right now. We think we're rich and increased with goods, but we're poor, blind, and naked. And we need to get with the program and start understanding these things and asking these questions that we're asking right here. So I'm going to go back to the chat, and then we're going to go to back to Ezekiel 9. Okay, you know what? Before I get to these, because we're gonna probably get diverted here, let's go to Ezekiel 9. So if you have your Bible, please go to Ezekiel 9. He cried also in mine ears with a loud voice. Now, I'm not going to try and trick you guys because there's no one to respond back to me verbally who's going to correct me. But when I am with a group of people, I will sometimes read the wrong thing and see if they catch it. And then if they don't catch it, then I'll say, no, it says loud voice. So this is not a silent thing that we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be preaching this from the housetops. Where does this loud voice come from? Who's this loud voice coming from? We haven't even left the first sentence, and we have an entire hour-long Bible study just right there. If we go quickly to Revelation chapter 14, verse 6. And I saw another angel flying in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel. So this message from this first angel is the everlasting gospel. That means it's going to be the gospel forever. It's not going to get old. It's not going to be, oh, that was back then. To preach unto them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation, kindred, and tongue, and people, saying with a loud voice. So this loud voice is coming from these messages of these 3 angels. Back to Ezekiel 9. Cause them that have charge over the city to draw near, even every man with his destroying weapon in his hand. This theme of this destroying weapon and the day of the great slaughter is something that we see throughout the whole Old Testament. And this should be a study that everybody should look at. It might be confusing at the start, but grab yourselves the bookmarks or go to the William Miller Rules webpage that we have, and you can see them right there on the webpage. And these are all things that we should be able to understand, right? The wise shall understand. It doesn't say the wise need to go to a theologian. No, the wise understand these things. And behold, 6 men came from the way of the higher gate with the slaughter weapons. I'm going to go down. And the glory of God of Israel was gone up from the cherub where he was to the threshold of the house. And he called to the man clothed with linen, which had the writer's inkhorn by his side. And the Lord said unto him, Go through the midst of the city, throughout the midst of Jerusalem. Jerusalem, this is God's people. These are the people who know the Sabbath. And set a mark on the foreheads of the men that sigh and cry for all the abominations done in the midst thereof. So this is a sighing and a crying message. Now, again, this brings us to Isaiah chapter 58. The Bible is interconnected. You can't read one spot. You have to go here a little, there a little. You have to be using this principle. Isaiah 58, verse 1. Cry loud, spare not, lift up thy voice like a trumpet. That sounds pretty loud to me. And show my people their transgression, and the house of Jacob their sins. And it goes through and it explains. We need to be sighing and crying for the abominations done in Israel. So, we don't have time to go through this entire chapter here, but again, it is starting at the sanctuary, starting at the people of God, starting at the holy men. Okay, let's go back to the comments here. We're already over an hour, well over an hour here. So, sorry? Okay, so we're going to be wrapping up here shortly. And this is from Selma Crump. Yes, the 7 last plagues, which is God's wrath. Anthony Turner. So when the first plague hits, that is the close of probation or before it strikes? That's a great question. So is the close of probation right when the first plague comes? Or is it before? And we're going to have to answer that question another time. So we're going to save that. If I can get you to grab that question there about the first plague and the close of probation, that's going to be coupled to another question that we had before on this, along the same lines. Zelfa McDonald, so she is saying that all those who keep the Sabbath is sealed now because the Sabbath is the seal of God? Yes and no. Because this sealing, it is the seal. Now, those who have the commandments, that is where the seal of God is. But when we're talking about sealing unto this group, the 144,000, we have to have all the things in place that are connected, right? So we can't pull one thing out. So right now, if we're talking about this sealing time, all the things need to be applicable. These 4 winds need to be being held back. We need to have the mark of the beast starting to be enforced. We need to have no buy, no sell coming. And then we have to be able to make a decision between the mark or the seal in order to receive that one that seals us to go through that time, if that makes sense. And we can go into that in more detail. Yes, every earthly support will be cut off. Anthony Turner, doesn't it say somewhere that our food and water will be sure during that time? We can garden and and whatever. Sorry, if you could maybe rephrase that. I'm not sure exactly what your question is there or what you're saying. Yes, and just like Elijah was fed. Okay. So we have, and we're going to wrap it up here. But I believe Anthony Turner, what he was trying to say is that we have a reference that our bread and water will be sure. Does that mean we don't need to prepare, that the gardens aren't going to do us any good? And some other people asked last time, why would we have gardens in the first place or buy lands when they're just going to take them? So why would we even do this investing into these lands? Which leads me back to our slides and to our questions. We had advice on human settlements in the Vancouver Declaration, which talks all about taking individuals' land. And we'll do a deep dive into that declaration. And then, again, about the 144,000. So with that, I'm not going to give you the answer today, but I want you to take your Miller's Rules, all 14 of them, and I want you to read this through the eyes of each rule. And this will give you a big help to answering that question. Now, the Vancouver Declaration and the New World Order, where we're talking about them taking our lands, is this something that we should be concerned about? Well, that's a big question, and I think we'll have to cover that another day. But if I could just say this, if God asks us to do something, I think we should do it. Because the devil has all the plans, but God's plan is the one that happens. So when he tells us, and when he told Noah, make sure you build an ark because a flood's coming, then Noah was obedient to that call. And when we're told that a flood is coming, a storm is coming, and we need to prepare so that we can meet it, then I take that seriously. And I think that means that we should be preparing for the coming events. And we'll talk about that in more later episodes. But thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you for all the questions. And we're going to continue talking about these subjects. We have a lot more to go into on the Vancouver Declaration. We're going to be reviewing some thoughts from a man who's passed away now, who gave us some very good insight into this New World Order plan. And then we're going to answer some of these questions that were left unanswered. So make sure you join us next time. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel and share the video so that people who have these questions might be able to get them answered as well. And we'll see you next time. Thank you very much, and God bless.